Welcome everybody. Hello, hello. I am Gabrielle Victoria, acting as your host today. We have a guest, and this is a different segment than Sip and Tip Tuesday, so not to be confused. This is a segment called the Gift of Gab, and so we're going to sit down with special guests each month, and they're going to share with us their expertise and their knowledge and their experience in hopes of creating some sense of different perspective. And it's all geared obviously towards making ourselves better and hopefully taking better steps for our own self journeys, right? Okay, so I want to introduce our guest and then we're going to get started. We're going to have some fun. We're going to learn about each other. And today we're going to talk about self-development, okay? So Lyndria Wynn, as affectionately known as Dree, how I know her, we have gone back, how many years have we known each other? Since I was a freshman at UCF because I joined the gospel choir. So it had to be 2013.
I was about to say that.
13 was when okay. It's been a
years.
while
A
and
long
we've
time.
been singing for the Lord. But Dree is actually multifaceted and multi-talented. Since I've known her, she's become a wife, she's become a mother, she's now an entrepreneur, and she's a triple threat, quadruple threat, and has so much more up her sleeve. So Dree, greet the people.
Hello, everyone. Lyndria Wynn, as Gabby said, just call me Dree. I am a wife, I am a mother, and I am a serial entrepreneur. I am the proud owner of Young Empowered Women Enterprises, or founder rather of Young Empowered Women Enterprises. It is a nonprofit that's geared towards giving women access and tools to the things that they need to live their best life.
Live their best life.
I am also a certified life coach, so I am the proud
Yes!
owner.
We're gonna get to that, but I'm
Yes.
excited about that.
of Winner Circle Life Coaching LLC.
Great. Awesome. Okay, so that was our introduction. If you guys are just tuning in for the first time, I want you to go ahead and like, subscribe, and share this video because someone we know needs to hear this, right? Okay, cool. Business is out the way. Let's have some fun. So this first part of our segment is kind of the warm-up. We have some questions simmering over here. Dree, why don't you go ahead and see what you can find?
Let's see. Give me the good stuff. Give me the good stuff. If you could meet someone, dead or living, who would it be? Ooh, that's a good one. If I could meet someone, dead or living, I think it would be Michelle Obama.
Oh, okay.
I am so inspired just by her brilliance and her
Yes.
grace and beauty and the way that she
Carries herself,
Yes.
speaks, and
Yes.
represents us so well. I like that.
she's like my godmother.
Okay.
In my mind. She's like
I concur. I like that. All right. Question one for Dree. Question one for me. Okay. Here we go. What are you dreading about tomorrow? Oh, okay. So I like to put positive and negative questions in here. Dreading about tomorrow. Yo, okay. So we live in Florida and it's indexing at 110. So I'm actually just dreading the walk from my front door to my car. If I'm just gonna be real with y'all for a minute, I'm not even gonna try and be deep. I'm not even gonna try and find something all
It's the little
philosophical.
things. It's
That
the-
walk, after I had put on my little face and my little edge control, that walk from my front door to my car is hard. I gotta redo everything because all that edge control melts right
It
away.
does. It does.
Okay, we're gonna do one more and then we'll get into our content. Get a good one, Dree. Get a good one.
All right, if you could relive one day in your life, oh, what day would it be?
Ooh, this is a good one. Because you're a wife and a mom.
I am.
Yes.
I am. If I could relive one day, I have to be honest, it would be my wedding day. And let me explain.
Because I was at her wedding, which was
And
absolutely beautiful.
Yes, it was a beautiful day. But knowing what I know now, I would definitely relive it. And I would be even more in the moment because the biggest moment that I remember is actually walking down the aisle. But my husband and I, we talked about this literally last week about what was my favorite part of the wedding. And I said, before I actually started walking down the aisle, because I was a complete mess. I mean, in tears. The entire walk down the aisle, I couldn't even focus. I was a mess.
Wow. Well, we didn't see that though.
It was the veil.
Right. We didn't see that.
I mean, completeness.
Okay.
But just to experience the moments and letting it be about us, it probably would have been a little bit more intimate too. We had a huge wedding, like 300 people. But my wedding day would definitely be it. Make some,
Be
nowadays
more intentional about remembering and being in those moments. Okay.
the special moments. The special moments.
Okay. Do. Oh, a perfect marriage or the perfect children? This would have been perfect for you. The perfect marriage or the perfect children? Okay. All right. My instinct is telling me I would want to have the perfect marriage because it would be an example to set that my children would model after. So whatever values that you set in your marriage, the interactions, the love, the care, the support that they see, that will obviously rub off onto them and hopefully it will influence them to be good people. So I hope that my marriage will be a beacon of light for my children. So I would take the perfect marriage first. There we go.
That's exactly what I would have said.
There's my pageant answer, guys.
Good job. Good job. A plus.
Okay.
A plus.
All right. So the question, we're gonna do that with each of our guests just to get a little bit of an insight into who they are and what they're thinking. And it's just a fun way to break the ice before we get into the heavy stuff. So let's get into our topic of the day, the reason why our guest is here. We're gonna discuss self-development. Now, we've heard this word, people have self-help books, how-tos, keynote speeches, conferences centered around self-development. It is a hot topic because everyone wants to be their best selves, right? But not everyone knows how to go about it. Not everyone knows where to start. Not everyone knows what the journey will look like. And a lot of us may even be fearful of what self-development means for us. And so we're just here to help that journey along and share our experiences because shared experiences are, I think, the best way to give light, to give information, and to give wisdom. And so, Drew, what is your take on self-development and why is it so important?
It's important because in order for us to live our best lives, that's the thing nowadays. Everybody wants to live their best life. We abandon the process sometimes. There's a process to getting there. You don't just wake up we don't just wake up like this, okay? It doesn't happen that way. There's a process. There's a behind the scenes. There's some groundwork and foundation that has to go on, which is the self-development. If you want to get to that best life, you got to do the work.
Like Ayana says, do your work.
Do the work.
Do your work. So I have a few questions that I've kind of prearranged, but I think they'll help to guide the conversation with Dree. So both of us have organizations, nonprofit organizations aimed at helping young women, but I don't want to exclude our young men also from this conversation because these tips can be applicable to you and this conversation can be applicable to you as well. So as the host of this show, I'm going to ask our guest her first question. At what age and stage in your life did you begin to take the idea of self-development seriously?
I would say it was back in 2010. I actually had just graduated high school, and I graduated high school at the tender age of 17 years old.
Oh.
Because I'm a June baby. I just celebrated a birthday.
Oh, that's just because you're smart.
No.
But you
well, I am smart, but that's not why. I just have a later birthday, and I actually was a college student 2 days before my 18th birthday. So I was at summer semester at the University of Central Florida in a college class 2 days before my 18th birthday. And just being in that environment with people that seemed like they had arrived and they were there, summer semester, those are juniors and seniors taking classes and prereqs. So as I was sitting, the overachievers, as I was sitting in that environment, I knew that something went off in me. It was like, I'm a baby. So there's some work that I have to do. There's some things that, I don't know just yet.
In order to rise to the occasion.
Exactly. In order for me to rise, there's some work that I have to do. And that's when I really started to take the idea of developing me seriously.
Was it more so focused on your academia, or was this more about a personal growth within yourself emotionally and mentally?
I'll be honest, it was more so geared around academia. As a high schooler, schooling came easy for me. I didn't really have study skills. I mean, ultimately, you show me something one time, I can teach it to you the next time. I'm just quick that way. And, when I got to college, it wasn't that way. So I knew that there was some skills and some development that I had to do in order to pass classes, because I didn't understand why I couldn't just take the test and take notes in class.
Right.
It didn't really occur to me that, it wasn't going to be that easy. Coming into the college arena, it was more so focused around academia first. Then as I would say around 2011 is when I met and got into a serious committed relationship. Been with the same man for 9 years.
Yes. Hey, Julia. Self-development for her started academia-wise. That's when you kind of woke up and realized I need to improve in order to rise to the occasion.
Exactly.
Not only just from an academic standpoint, but then as time grew on, it's like from a maturity standpoint. For me, I believe my self-development, I was a little bit of a late bloomer. I feel like I've always kind of been a little self-actualized, was like self-aware. But as far as doing the work and taking some hard looks at myself and deciding to like correct some bad habits, that came like my senior year of college.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
wow.
It took me some time to see that I too was imperfect. It's hard sometimes for us to be honest with ourselves, because we've been accustomed to living and being and existing a certain way, and no one has ever told us that way may or may not be the right way.
This is true.
We have no reason to check ourselves. And so it wasn't until life started happening around me, whether it was friendships, and I'm on my own now, so the independence thing was starting to hit me in the face, adulting. All of those things like kind of afforded me the opportunity to take some hard looks at the way I approached life. Had a very sheltered life. And so a lot of the things and the ways that I approached communication, conflict, friendships, people, relationships, love, trust, all those types of things were from that shelter perspective. And I thought the world was just unicorns and rainbows. And
your oyster, literally.
Yeah, when you do things the right way, this is what happens. But that's not always the way that life happens. And so I had to do some work to strengthen my skills and strengthen my perspectives and become more of a holistic liver, if that makes sense. We'll get into what some tips and ways that we can see life, because the way that you view life plays a big indication, a big way on how you participate and how you show up in the world. Kind of going on to that, as far as the way that you view life now versus how you viewed life 5 and 7 years ago, what do you think has been the biggest difference?
It's night and day for me. And I think it's come from my increased level of responsibility. I am now a mom. So that changes your entire world, becoming the sole provider, sole source of nutrition for several months for little people, for humans. It changes just your outlook on life. I think back then, I'm not an only child. I have an older brother. I have a brother that is 11 months older than I am, but he is special needs. So a lot of the firsts that you would have with your first child, my mom didn't experience. So she experienced a lot of her firsts through me. I'm the only one that will give her grandchildren. I'm the only one that will, get married ultimately. So I was like an only child, but I had a brother because there was a lot of things that I didn't get to watch my brother do. So I didn't have like a blueprint. I didn't have a foundation. I was kind of winging it as I went along. And now I know that life is literally what you make it. There is so much action and decision making and choosing that goes into life. Now, as you said, I thought that life was, if you do the right things, good things come. Good things happen. And that, I know we've all heard.
And it happened on your time.
Exactly.
Right.
It doesn't happen that way. I know we've all heard, good things come to those who wait. That's true.
Only after those who hustle.
That's
my mama taught me.
There is some action that goes into this thing that, you got to kind of get off your butt sometimes and really just take action and speak up and say what it is that you want and what it is that you need. And that only comes after what you mentioned, just the actualization process and the awareness piece.
Yeah, I say, just piggybacking off of that, one of the biggest things for me in the last year has been learning how to speak up and learning how to stand on my beliefs and my feelings and to lean into it. I'll say this 10 times over. I used to be very passive because I was a conflict avoider. I didn't like to ruffle people's feathers. I don't like tension too much. And I don't want to come across as, you know, a witch, you know? So I would silence myself and allow things to happen to me instead of me making things happen. And that was my biggest lesson of this past year. As I was going on my journey of self-development, one of the things I tasked myself with was, you need to lean in and trust your voice. Yeah,
that's good.
Instinct is a big thing. I know as women, we have our own intuition and our own instinct.
Yeah.
And I have to say, mine has never failed me. Has it failed you?
No.
It has not. And
it's true.
And it challenges you because it's like what I see and what I feel may not add up, but you have to ultimately go with what you feel. And there were so many times growing up that I would appease, I would accommodate, I would, you know, shrink myself, shrink the space that I was in to make sure that the people around me felt comfortable and that I wasn't stepping on people's toes with my personality and with my presence. And ultimately, I was doing myself a disservice because it shot my self-esteem. You know, I shot my own self in the foot with my own confidence because I was shrinking myself to accommodate people who had not yet realized their own strength.
Exactly.
So that was in the last year, my biggest one. What's been yours?
I think very similarly to what you mentioned, back in 2018, I experienced something that was just challenging within my own workplace. And I won't go into too many details, but I experienced something that I had never experienced before. And it brought about feelings and emotions of hopelessness that I had never experienced before because I'm a woman of faith. So I am a firm believer that, you know, there's always a divine connection and you always feel connected and he's always with you. But in that moment, at that very moment, I felt disconnected and detached. And that was
abandoned, huh?
Abandoned.
Yeah.
And that temporary moment of abandonment and detachment, something broke in me and I got desperate.
Wow.
I got desperate for change.
Wow.
I got desperate for connection and real connection because sometimes we get conditioned. You know, I'm a self-proclaimed church girl, so sometimes we get conditioned to what we're taught. You can know of God and not know him personally. There's a difference.
Yes.
And it didn't get real. I was already someone's mom. I was a parent to 2 kids.
Yeah, 2018 was not that long ago.
And it didn't get real until that moment. And I got desperate for change and desperate for better. At that moment, that's when it broke for me. Just
in 2 years. And what a difference that realization can make. Because so many of us, like we started out introducing the idea of self-development. We want this best life and we want to make it all work and we want to live the happily ever after, whatever that may mean for you. But how to begin that process, how to make it and do the work right now, you know, what is the thing that's going to spark that light bulb? You know, what is going to be the moment in your life that becomes the turning point? It may be a traumatic experience. Like she said, it was something that happened at her job that she had never, ever experienced before. It could be heartbreak. It could be financial devastation. It could be death. It could be something that changes your perspective and says, oh, I was not ready. Or, oh, this is not working for me. And then you realize, okay, I got to do something has to give. All right, let's get into what that work looks like, because, you know, we can talk about self-development all day long and give y'all stories and give you our testimonies, but let's kind of get into a little bit of the science behind self-development, right? So let me ask Dree this question.
Okay.
Some common misperceptions. What do you think are some common misperceptions that may hinder someone from even beginning the journey of self-development?
I think one of them is the idea, our culture, just the way that music infiltrates and really directs a lot of our actions, the way that we think, the way that we behave. That, when I think about I woke up like this, we all think that we just wake up like this.
And we don't have to do anything.
A winner. There's no action. There's no effort that goes behind it. There's almost like those people that think that they think that we're living in some type of utopia. Like we just woke up and our face was highlighted, and we all have dark circles. We all have things that we have to conceal and things that we have to kind of do some work to,
to present it to the
to
rest
look
of the world.
presentable.
Yeah, social media plays that in a big way.
It really does.
Yeah,
just our culture, and being millennials, we're direct access to technology as well. It's easy for us. We live in a microwavable society where we want it quick and we want it now, and the idea of something taking 2 or 3 years to produce and
cultivate,
kind of simmer and that's not appealing.
And it's not attractive. I was going to say, it's not attractive.
Who wants to wait that long?
No, not when you see everyone on your timeline getting new homes and getting married and getting engaged and getting it promoted. And it's like, where do I fit in? Let me go ahead and try and project something that's not necessarily real. And what we end up doing is fancying up all that's on the outside, and inside you are rotted. You feel just empty, hollow. Yeah. You're a hollow shell. Misperceptions, I think, of self-development is a lot of people hear it so often that it becomes a cliche, and they may feel as though it's kitschy. It's just a catchphrase, and what does it really mean? It's just something that those motivational speakers try and sell you. Yeah. It's something to be sold. And you're right, there are a lot of people talking about self-development, and you may or may not tune into it, but the idea of let's break down the word self-development. Developing yourself, and development is growth. It's progress. It's change. It's challenging yourself. And none of those things can yield poor and negative results. Yeah. There's nothing but positivity that can come from self-development. Yeah. And like I said, it may challenge you. It may force you to take some hard looks at yourself in the mirror. You may have some moments that you cry, you break down, you take a few steps back and take a few steps forward. It is not a cut and dry, beautiful pathway laid in red carpet. No. It's a road filled with hurdles and bumps and bruises. And so we don't want to glamorize self-development to be this unattainable goal that we're just selling, because it is legitimately the everyday fight of your life. Yeah. What would you add to that?
And the most important part of that is self. It's you. I think a lot of times we get so caught up in it's everyone else. It's not me. It's not me. If such and such changed the way that they did me or treated me, or I would respond differently.
Or if I moved out of this city and go, if I moved to Atlanta, maybe everything will change.
I mean, you don't have to be a product of your environment. You can stand out. You can be salt. You can be a light in darkness. And that's what we're called to be. So taking ownership and saying it's me, that accountability. Accountability is one of my favorite words. It's one of the hardest things to do. Yes. But once you got it, your life changes. Right. Your life literally changes before your eyes once you become accountable for your growth, for your failures, for
that's good, Jerry. I'm glad you said
once
failures.
You become accountable and say it doesn't matter what happened to me. I mean, you can look at it a different way and say it happened for me. It challenged me so that I would change, because had the challenge not been presented to me, the change would never have occurred.
Right. And everything that has happened to us is designed not to break us, but to make us better, and for us to learn, cultivate those skills, those lessons. And then that way, when the next test happens, because life, we know, is always going to test us, that you can pass. And I think you said something extremely important about failure. Self-development is not getting it right on the first try, It's embracing those shortcomings. I just did an episode on flaws, but it's literally taking the things that are not working, those toxic, those blatant, the things that are just literally tearing you apart and tearing your life apart. And as you fail, and as you scrape your knee, and as you continue to climb up the mountain, you're growing.
Exactly.
And you're learning new things along the way. And I think as we continue to think about self-development, learning and discovering yourself is one of the most beautiful and also one of the most rewarding things, because I would not know what I know about myself if it had not been for the failures. And I used to be so confused and frustrated with God, like, why did you let this happen to me? I'm a good person. I have a good heart. I don't try and do people wrong.
Exactly.
I don't lie. I don't cheat. I don't steal. Like, why is this happening to me?
Yeah.
And if I had my way, I'm like, God, you could have taught me that lesson without
Exactly.
having to do that. Like, you really could have taught me how to be strong without having let me go through this.
Exactly.
But part of self-development was I would never have started that journey had I not scraped my knee that hard.
Exactly.
I would not even be thinking about taking the time and the energy and the space to read, to allow inputs into my ear gates and my eye gates, to surround myself with better energy and better people.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be challenging myself. I wouldn't be, taking the moments in the morning to pray and do affirmations. I wouldn't be doing any of that. I'd be living my life how I was living it.
Exactly.
It was maybe working.
In your bubble.
In my bubble, in my sheltered bubble. But please understand, you all, as you fail, as life happens, as you experience heartache, embrace it. Lean into it. What is this trying to teach me? What can I gain from this?
Exactly.
What skill could have been cultivated from this? So you learned that this didn't work, but you also learned that you have an amazing sense of self. You have an amazing way to communicate. And you didn't know that about yourself before.
Exactly.
And so self-discovery falls right in line with self-development. Now there's another word that we always hear, and I want Dree to kind of give her input, is self-awareness. And I mentioned this earlier, but there is a distinct difference. So what do you think is the fine line between self-awareness and self-development?
I think simply put, it's a step 1 and step 2 type of thing. Self-awareness has to happen first.
I'm glad you said that. I was going to say that. Look at us. Okay.
Self-awareness happens first.
Yes.
You can't know what to develop unless you've identified the things that are not working. The process in which you go, the development, the action, the changes, the transformation, the failures, all of that is in the self-development. But the actualization part of it, the awareness, learning who you are, identifying those weak spots, your hot spots, your triggers, those are the things that happens in the self-awareness phase. And I've realized is that the self-awareness normally happens in the trial, in the places and the hard things that we're presented with that we didn't plan for. We learn who we are in that dark moment.
Now let me ask you this: in those dark moments, how are you able to look up and see that? And how do you realize this is my moment for me to be able to be self-aware? Because a lot of us will sit in gloom and doom and, we'll feed into the depression. I know I went through a moment of depression when I was going through my dark time. How do you train your mind to reposition itself to see this as a beacon of light, or to see that I can be self-aware in this?
That's been hard, and I would directly give credit to my upbringing and just, I am a woman of faith. Because I am a church girl, I always knew that there was someone greater than I that would be able to come up and pick me up when I've fallen. Now, had I always embraced that? No. But I knew about it.
It's deep down inside.
It's rooted in me. I could pull from it. I can't imagine, how long it would have taken me to get to this point had I not had that upbringing, that foundation of faith.
That's so true.
And in those moments, I know it's terrible to say, but in those moments, in those dark moments, you typically reach for your foundation. You reach for the roots. You try to find some stability when you're being tossed every way. You're looking for the roots and the foundations, and you're out of control. I've in my self-awareness, I've learned about myself that I enjoy having control of the situation. I enjoy having control of my thoughts and my emotions. And that was something that my mother taught me. She taught me that, you can't give someone that type of power over you. So I don't ever want to feel like I'm underneath someone's thumb and they have the ability to control me and kind of remote control me. That whole thought just makes me itch, like in a place I can't even scratch. It's like in the back of it makes me itch, the idea of someone controlling me in that way. And in those moments where I feel out of control, I'm grasping for some type of control. And what I've found for me, the things that have worked for me, is getting in my word and praying, and literally just getting on the floor and crying out, God, I don't know what to do. I don't know where to go from this. I need your help. And stillness, quietness. He'll answer. Lyndria, reflect.
Mm-hmm.
What part did you play in this whole ordeal?
In this whole ordeal, yes. That's good. One of the things for me, as I was in my dark place, I would fight the feelings. Okay, so let's talk about going into all of this self-development also is congruent with the idea of mental health, right? And our emotions. And in our culture, it is not always, emotional intelligence is not, it's not a thing. It just doesn't exist. So part of my self-awareness, in turn helping to, build on my self-development, was learning how to feel, learning how to sit in what you feel. Beyonce gave a great analogy. She said, I allow myself to cry, feel bad for myself for a day. I give myself 24 hours, and then after that I pick it up and I keep it moving. And then yours may not be specific to that time frame, but you have to allow yourself to feel.
You have to.
Because what we don't want to happen is you deny yourself the opportunity to outlet and to express, and then it becomes pent up, it becomes suppressed, and then you bleed onto other people. So when I was going through what I was going through, it was very important for me, only because I had resources that were able to educate me and encourage me and make me feel safe enough to start to feel, was to cry and to not feel bad about it.
Yeah.
If I'm angry, I am angry right now. Here is why I'm angry. And I either would journal about it, I would talk to myself in the mirror, I would take a drive and I would explore those feelings, explore those emotions. And ultimately it helped me to work it out. Sometimes you talk things through, and like you said, you ask yourself, what role did I play in this?
Exactly.
Why am I feeling this angry? What at the origin, at the core of me is triggered so deeply? And then sometimes you can look at, okay, there's some unresolved trauma.
Yeah.
There's some unresolved, maybe some unforgiveness.
Yeah.
There's some other things that are playing right now that may not have anything to do with this specific person or situation. And it's showing itself. And so that awareness, that actualization came from me feeling and leaning into what I was feeling. Don't shy away from your guilt. Don't shy away from your, your anguish or your anxiety. You need to learn how to manage it. But I would never deny yourself the emotions that God gave you.
Yeah.
There's a reason he gave us a spectrum of emotions. There's a time to mourn and a time to rejoice.
Exactly.
A time to, so it's very important for your self-health, your mental health, to go through the motions.
Yeah.
And after I went through the motions and I asked myself some questions, and why am I so angry? Why am I so hurt? Why do I feel so resentful? Why can't I forgive this person? Why won't I take this risk? Those are the hard questions that I begin to okay, I need to do some work. I need to take some time to think. Maybe I need to listen to someone who has already been through this with me. And so this goes into the accountability. Accountability is, I think, once you've gotten to the self-development phase and you're ready to start putting in the work, it's surrounding yourself with either people or inputs that are going to hold you accountable to the things that you say you want. So what has been, or who has been, if you would like to name, your accountability sources?
I have several, because they're in different areas of my life. That's important.
Yes.
It's okay to compartmentalize your life. We're here. Yes. It's okay to compartmentalize, because there are some people that have not mastered physical health and fitness, and they're not on that same journey. So you can't expect them to hold you accountable on girls' night. You can't just, it doesn't work that way.
Everybody has a lane, and let them drive in their lane.
Exactly. You have different phases in your life that people serve you in, and you serve others in.
Yes.
But my mother has been instrumental in. This woman is a gem, and I don't understand it, and I hope to be just a tenth of what she is, because
I say that all the time.
She's so good in so many different things. It's like, how?
But it's lived experience.
Yes, it's lived experience. She's been there. She's done that, and because she has experienced so many things, so many failures, so many heartbreaks, so many triumphs, she's great at just being that listening ear and being that hard truth when I need it.
Yes, hard truth.
But that love and that unconditional, baby girl, I'm so proud of you. She has been like the anchor of my tribe, and she feeds into every area of my life. My best friend Brianna has been an amazing, just light. Academics wise, I admire her so much. She's actually in grad school now, and I admire just her fight and her just go get it mentality. Yes, I love it. And she inspires me so much. She's accomplished a lot in her fitness journey. So I try to mirror some of her actions, and a lot of times we'll talk about it. We'll even meet up, even though she's almost 2 hours away from me now. We'll meet halfway in like Kissimmee and just go walking and just go work out and just go do things that she will hold me accountable in certain places that I know someone else can't. My husband has been very instrumental as well, I'll be honest. And not from the point of my health and fitness, but just my keeping my word.
Yes, and that's important. When you set a goal, ask someone, where are you with this? How can I help you support it?
Yeah, he has been very, very just sometimes like, why'd you say that? Now I have to go do what I said I was going to do.
Hold you to it. And that's important.
And he makes sure that I don't overwhelm myself with things. That I don't become overly productive. Just recently, like this week, he told me, I need you to get out more. Because like we talked about a minute ago, this quarantine has not been anything but a blessing for me. I didn't know that I was this much of an introvert. I've been living my best life at home.
I learned that I was an introvert.
I didn't know that.
Girl,
I've been living my best life.
And I am embracing it, okay? I'm not going to even try and fight it, because I used to pretend that I was an extrovert. I was not.
It was forced.
It was so forced.
It's a skill. I can be extroverted when I need to.
When I need to.
Fine.
Girl.
At the house.
And there's nothing wrong with that. People try to shame me for being an introvert. Listen.
I'm good.
God made me different, okay? So yes, your husband has told you to get out more and held you accountable to doing that.
Accountable to just maintaining strong relationships. Even within my workplace, he's been, an ear a lot of times for things that I feel. When I feel injustice and when I feel, that things should be a certain way, a lot of times he is that still voice that says, Lyndria, well, there's always another option. He always gives that fresh perspective and his way of thinking is normally not the way I think. So it's always necessary to have somebody that's going to be contradictory to who you are, to challenge you a little bit.
Sharpen you,
just to know if you believe what you really believe. You always need that counter. So he's been that counter. There have been a lot of people just in my life, people that I don't even know that, I admire and I look up to, and just books that I've read.
They don't even know that they're holding you accountable.
Yeah, they don't even know that. Their light has inspired me, and just the way that they carry themselves. And of course, we all have our flaws. We all have our, our work to do. But just the way that they are embracing their work, and they're bold enough and just willing to share so much of their intimate moments, whether it be, them mothering children or being wives to husbands, or even operating and maintaining their businesses. I love just a go-getter. I love a woman that is...
And seeing them get to makes you want to go out there and get it. It's like, girl, I'm not doing enough.
It inspires me so much. And it's like, you know what? Well, if she can do it, Lyndria, no excuses.
No excuses.
Get it done.
And you have to surround yourself with a tribe that snatches the excuses away from you. They're not going to allow you to remain complacent. Because I will, going back to the health and fitness, I was my best self when I had my college roommate Antoinette with me. You remember Antoinette? My shadow. We used to go everywhere together. And the gym was one of them. Once we graduated, I had her no more. She moved to New York. The gym stopped. And that's because she was my accountability partner. We would go, she was my accountability partner. We would go and, she would work out hard. She's like, Gab, you cannot leave until I leave. And that forced me to stay on the machines and work it out.
3 more reps.
No. And she forced, we worked with each other, because some days she was a little weak and she was like, girl, let's get some Subway. Because remember UCF, they had the Subway.
Right.
She's like, girl, let's get a sub. And I said, yeah, we're going to get a nap and then we'll come back. And we would never come back. But having her as my accountability partner, I was in my best physical shape. So I need her to come on back. But in my life, I think it's been a mixture of not just people physically, but inputs. So like you said, maybe for me personally, the Woman of All podcast with Sarah Jakes Roberts changed the trajectory of my womanhood. Because when I found that podcast, I was going through a lot emotionally, professionally. I was unemployed. I was going through some ups and downs, turbulence in my family. It was just a lot going on. And I found that podcast, and every single episode inspired me to do the work.
Mm-hmm.
And when we came back the next week for the next episode, which I could not wait to tune back in, you know, it would be a follow-up, and she would check. And I don't know this woman from Adam, and she doesn't know who I am, but she doesn't know also how much I relied on her every single week, her
and
consistency
her
obedience. And the Woman of All podcast was one of my sources of accountability. What have I done since last week that I said I was going to do?
Mm-hmm.
Also, I had a few girlfriends who, not so gently, but that sometimes you need some tough love, but not so gently would push me and say, girl, you said you was going to do this. What you doing? We haven't heard this. We haven't heard from you. What's going on?
Yeah.
And that's sometimes what I needed. And then also my mother is a gem, an anchor, my backbone, my inspiration, my laughing partner, but also my life coach. My mom is the success doctor for a reason, but to have her just a phone call away or a drive away, and knows that she wants the best for me.
Exactly.
I never have to question her motives.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have to worry about her ever being jealous. I don't have to worry about her lacking compassion or lacking empathy for me.
Yes.
You know, she knows me like the back of her hand. And so I can, you know, not even articulate myself, you know, fully, and she'll already know how I'm feeling and how to respond to me.
Yeah.
I think it's really important having people around you that know how to respond to you. You know, what it is that you need, that somehow they're either in the spirit realm enough to know and be able to discern what it is you need in that moment.
Exactly. Do you need an ear?
Do I need an ear?
Or do you need a kick in the butt?
Do you need a kick in the butt? Do I need your advice, your wisdom? Because sometimes I don't need advice. I just need your ear.
Exactly.
Sometimes I just need to lay here and cry.
Yeah.
But sometimes I need you to speak into my life.
Exactly.
And you have to know the difference. And that plays a part in, you know, where you are spiritually. But those were my accountability sources. A few different podcasts, Therapy for Black Girls.
Okay.
The Love Hour podcast with Kev on Stage and his wife.
Yes.
That was actually really good because yes, it's centered on relationships, but a lot of it was starting with the relationship with yourself.
Yeah.
And self-love, and they had a lot of different therapy and psychologists and psychiatrists come on there, and I'm like, I'm a mess. I need to do some work. So every week I got excited and almost obsessed with, you know, rewarding myself for all the little baby steps that I was doing and putting these tools and strategies into motion. And I see the results and how my relationships and my friendships and how I felt about myself began to improve. And once you get that little taste of improvement, it's like a drug, because now it's like, oh, this works. You crave getting better.
You crave it.
So if we could leave you all with anything, Dre, what is your sum up of self-development if for someone who wants to do better, who wants to start their journey, but is not quite sure where to start? Where would you direct them, and what advice would you give them?
I'm going to say it in a way that I hope you receive. It starts with you, and you have to identify the why behind it. It can't be influenced. Your why can't be influenced from external sources. Something that I realized being a wife and being a mom is that a lot of times we do it for everyone else. We do it for everyone else. We do it in spite of everyone else. Maybe someone has told you that you're never going to be something, that you're never going to amount to something. So you do it to show them it can't be for that. Yeah. Because when that anger or that injustice that you feel no longer lingers, the motivation leaves. Ooh. It has to be for you. It has to be for you. You have to. Something has to go off in your head to say that you're worth it. That you are worth a good life. You deserve a good life. Everything that we see on social media, everything that we want and we secretly desire and we don't know how to really get it, you have to believe first and foremost that you're worthy of it before you start taking action to try to reach something that you don't even secretly believe that you're worth. Ooh. That's a lot of times that's the problem. So understanding your worth, and know that it is completely impossible. It's not impossible to love someone if you don't love yourself, but it's impossible to love someone efficiently if you don't love yourself.
Love someone properly. Yes.
It's a lot that goes into this love thing, and the love that you have for you spills into every other area of your life, and your finances, in the way that you steward your finances, and that you treat other people, and the way that you treat yourself, your physical temple. All of that starts with you. Identify the why and get to the root of the unforgiveness, of the failure, of the abandonment issues that you may have from your father not being present, whatever it is. Start with you.
Yes.
Understand that you are worth it. And then from that forgiveness, from that peace and that stillness that you have, start to build, start to blueprint and say, what is it that I want? What is it that I want? Not that society thinks that I should have, or that they think that they can give to me. What is it that I want? And then consult someone higher. I don't know what you believe. I believe in the Heavenly Father. Consult your Heavenly Father and ask him, what is it that you want for me to have? Are these things that I'm desiring, are they in line with what you have for me? Because I want your best. Because mine is surface. You have a different view of the world. So my viewpoint may be very, very narrow
compared to what he may
to what he wants to give you. So start with you. Start with the work of you, your heart, the emotional state of you, and then start. Don't just jump from here. Literally start at the bottom of the playground.
Yes.
One step at a time.
There is not a whole lot to add to that. As we wrap up, that was beautiful, because I got chills. I didn't want to interrupt you because I'm working on that myself as being a good listener. Because sometimes I get excited when people say good stuff, and then I want to stop you and interject, and I can't, because then you're going to lose it, and I can't have you losing it. So the only thing I would add to that is you have to open your heart and be ready to receive when this thing comes, because even the life that we want for ourselves, we can't have it with closed fists. So what are you willing to sacrifice? What are you willing to let go of? And these may be habits that you have had forever, friends that you have had forever, a city that you have known forever. What if the Heavenly Father decides to direct you in a way during this self-development journey? What are you willing to let go of and sacrifice in order to be your best self? And it may be uncomfortable, but pray for strength. It may be scary, but pray for faith. You know, these are the things that ultimately you want peace. I think all of us just want to be whole. All of us just want to be happy. And happiness for all of us looks different, but the one thing that we want is to be happy with how we live. When we wake up in the morning, the life that we live, the life that we look forward to is something that excites us and makes us enthusiastic, and we can be proud of the life that we've cultivated around us. But the only way to do that is to now open up your heart and your mind to receive that. And it could be feedback. Some of us don't like to see ourselves in a negative light. Some of us don't even want to do that kind of reflection. But take some introspection, take that reflection, and open yourself up to the process. I'll say we'll leave a few resources with you. If you are a young woman watching this, and young woman is how you feel inside.
It's true. It's true.
We are not limiting you, but I would say YEW is an amazing resource for you guys to check out if you want to start this process. Every Thursday, Dree gets on every morning and leaves us with some thoughts and some tips and some affirmations. That's something you can tune into to help your morning get started. If you can rewatch them, you can. But I don't want to do any disservice to what you ultimately represent, but what I know as a young woman, I'm 26. I'm still young, right?
You're still young.
As a
remind yourself.
Right? You know, we used to be in children's church all the time. I'm scared to call myself a woman.
This is true.
Woman, all right? But no. So if you're a young woman and you want to take some first steps, you want to figure out where can I go to even get started? What can I do? YEW. And as she said, it starts with you, but it's also a double entendre and a play on words, because YEW, her nonprofit organization, is YEW, which is Young Empowered Women. And that's exactly what her goal is to be, and that's what we want for you, and that's what we want for everyone to be. So go ahead and visit her. What can they find you, Dree?
You can find me if you are on Instagram at enterprise_of_you. I'm also on Facebook, YEW Enterprises. You can add me personally as an individual friend, Lyndria Wynn, Lyndria Wynn, WYNN.
I'll put that down the bottom so they can just copy and paste that right on in. But I'm so glad that you decided to join us with your wisdom. This was good. I hope that you guys were able to glean something, take a note, take a thought, and run with it. And hopefully it sheds some light and sheds some encouragement, and you feel equipped, and maybe you think about self-development a little bit differently. And that's all we wanted to do, was just to shed some light. Thank you guys for watching. This has been the Gift of Gab. Hopefully, it was a gift. Here's our gift to you. I gotta figure out a way to close this all up in a pretty little bow. Okay.
To the world.
All right, we'll catch you guys on the next time. In the meantime, until we meet again, guys, go out and live your best life. But the only way to do that is to do what first, Judy? Do the work. Okay? Love you guys.
Bye. Hey guys. Thank you so much, Gabrielle, for having me on this week's episode of The Gift of Gab. I just wanted to jump on really quickly and say, if you are a young man or woman that is in need of that accountability and you're ready to do the work, I am the proud owner of Winner Circle Life Coaching LLC, and I am a certified life coach, proudly accepting clients. I am ready to book you for your self-discovery session to determine if coaching is right for you. Hit me up at Lyndria Wynn on Facebook and Queen_Dree on Instagram. I'd be more than happy to get with you and get ready to change your life, because champions have coaches.